किसी का मेरे पास है ना। अंडर पीते हैं। सही इस्तेमाल इसका करने का मेरे पास एक चीज है।
अभी मॉर्निंग चल रहा है ओके अरे नीचे क्या गुड आफ्टरनून कैन यू हैव योर वीडियो ऑन प्लीज थैंक यू अरेनी श्याम आर यू देयर गुड आफ्टरनून माही So last time we completed the yes everyone can I have
Sorry.
your
Hello. Sorry, ma'am. Actually, a delivery person was came. I was just taking the delivery. Sorry.
Sham, did you miss a few lectures earlier?
I think so. Yes, I have missed the last to last lecture.
Quite a few. You missed something important. So what did we do last two lectures? You were not there. So you missed an important one.
What did we miss?
You missed sentence completion. जो सबसे दिक्कत वाला था.
Can we like revise it a bit?
Okay, I'll get back to it later. Again, yeah. So we can make sure that whoever missed will be. Yeah. And any test you have taken, अभी last 2 weeks तो test नहीं दिए थे ना, no test at all. Yeah. And the previous classes all completed. Really? Sanita, the previous classes जो नहीं किए थे, कब? Yeah. How did you perform? Kitna mila? You can see the score. Means above 50%, below 50%, below 50%. So were there topics which, okay, I think there was few questions in the verbal portion which we haven't done. So that's okay. Okay, so now those who remember what we did last time? Hmm? Multiple gaps, right? Sentence repetitions. And the strategies you remember? Anything you remember how to deal with them? Read the question, make your own answer. How to make your own answer? Positive or negative influence, context, relationship between the ideas.
It's basically changing the tenses of the words given, right? Like there will be two words
Fill in
given,
the blanks with the options given.
options given. Yes.
So there can be one blank. In case of one blank, you will have four options with one word each. In case of two or three blanks, you will have four options again with two or three words each. So you can make sure that you at least go through the PPT that I've shared, and you can go through the lecture. So at least you can come up with doubts and then you can solve it. Right? So we are also done how to solve those questions even if we don't know the meaning of the words. Maybe we don't know the meaning of two words. For the other two we can eliminate. And then we can go into whether it's a negative word or positive word, or we also look at the cognates, that is, origin of the words, or the suffix prefix gives an idea of what the word means. Yes, please. So today we'll move on to a new topic which is called paragraph completion. Paragraph completion. So we did sentence completion. Now the same strategies we go a little further into paragraph completion. So in paragraph completion, usually you'll be given a paragraph of about 3 or 4 sentences. Sometimes maybe longer. It may be complicated or simple. If it's simple, if the paragraph is simple, the question will be complicated. If the paragraph is difficult, usually the question is not so complicated. Yeah, like in the words, in the sentence completion also you saw, was it very difficult? Doable? Yeah, that will always be there. Because everyone doesn't expect you to get 100% of the answers right. They'll always put in questions where you will go. If you don't know what you do, skip. So we don't want negative mark. Right? Okay. Now when we talk about paragraph completion,
Okay, let's see.
you can see. People can see. So in a paragraph, you will be given a paragraph where one sentence will be missing. It can be the sentence at the beginning of the paragraph, at the end of the paragraph, or a new sentence in the middle of the paragraph. So here again, you have to do what? Read, understand. So it's a testing of your comprehension and analytical skills as usual. No matter what question you get in verbal, it will be testing what? What is it testing? All the what will test grammar? Analysis, comprehension. These are the basic things. If you don't understand, how will you answer? Right? So you have to understand. So to understand, if it seems complex, what do you do? Break it down. Yeah? break it down into simple parts. If it's a single sentence, break it down into parts. Understand? If it's a paragraph, what do? Break it down into bullet points. Yeah? What does the first sentence say? What does the second say? What does the third say? What does the fourth say? So once you've done that, it becomes easy. Even when you have a big comprehension passage, do you have to understand the entire thing? It's not possible. Yeah? A big passage of 500, 600 words. What's the strategy? I think Deepshika ma'am has told you the strategy, how to deal with comprehension passages. Yeah. Now you can answer me.
She has told us to read the answers first and then try to plug them into the question.
Yeah. So you read the question first. First you read the question. Unless you read the question, you don't know what you are looking for. You always have to read the question to see what you are looking for. Once you do that, you go into the options to see what you can eliminate. Right? Okay, so now when we are talking about the paragraph, so it tests your comprehension skills. So, as I said, your thought process, that is, can you understand what the main idea is? Ability to conclude. So if the last sentence of a paragraph is missing, that means it is related to a conclusion or a continuation from what has been said earlier. And main thing is to summarize. Yeah. What does the whole passage say instead? Yeah. And of course, this is also important. Keep track of an idea or an argument. Say a paragraph begins with something. Then it goes on to an explanation. Then it goes on to giving an example. Then an idea is concluded. So you have to know how the paragraph is structured. What is the thought process going on in the paragraph? Right? So now you want to know what type of questions may come. So as I said earlier also, it can be the first sentence. So when you read a paragraph, what does the first sentence usually tell you? Any paragraph. In a big passage, you have 5 or 6 paragraphs. Idea of the paragraph. So first sentence is usually the topic sentence. So it gives you an idea of what the paragraph is going to be about. So if the first sentence is missing, how do you figure it out? You read the paragraph. Yeah. Once you read the paragraph, you get an idea of what the entire paragraph is talking about, or maybe what is the specific thing that comes out of it, or more or less the main idea, right? Now, when you talk about a connecting sentence between two sentences, or maybe the first 2 sentences are given, one is missing, then you have another sentence or another 2 sentences. So anything in the middle will be doing what? Connecting what has been said before and after. So when you're talking about connecting sentences, what are the things that come to you? How can you figure out it's a connecting?
That's information related to the upper paragraph and the middle paragraph.
Right. So any sentence that will not fit into the blank or will disrupt the flow cannot be your middle sentence or connecting sentence. And connecting sentences can, you can identify, like, if the next sentence is talking about begins with this or it or the, then you know that something in the previous sentence should refer to that. And then you have the concluding sentence. Yeah. So questions can come with any of these patterns. So either the first sentence is missing, middle sentence or concluding sentence. So when you are concluding something, usually what are the clues that you can come up with?
If it's related to the topic discussed in the above sentences, like it cannot be anything different than what
It
has
cannot
been
be
discussed.
different, right? Anything else?
Okay.
So in your options, if you look at your options, what type of words or what type of transitions will help you in conclusion as a result? Therefore, so these are the type of words which will at the end, finally, yeah. So transitions are important, and whatever the conclusion is, it should be related to what the passage is from, and it should be logical. Anything that is related but not logical will not give us. So we'll go into details of this. So let's look at this question. Hello, Utkarsh, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, Utkarsh, where were you missing?
Hello, ma'am. Can you
Yes, we can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself?
Hello, ma'am. Can you now hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, last lecture, I was in the midst of my midterm exams, so I could not join. I needed to study that time.
You missed about 3 lectures or so? 3 or 4, I think. Because I missed you quite a long time. I hope you'll be able to make up for what you missed out, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I will.
So now if you look at this, this is the type of question that you get. Here, you have a blank at the end. Now, if you are given an entire paragraph with no blank, then it is understood that the last sentence is this. Yeah, they may give you sometimes in, say, some exams, it may happen that they're given the paragraph, but they haven't given you any blank. It implies that the concluding sentence. So now if you read, now how many sentences are there? One, two, three. 5 sentences. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 sentences. Yeah. And the last one is the fifth one is missing. So if you read this, now what do you have to do? You have to read it, understand it. Second, let's see if it is second. So what is first thing we do is we have to figure out what is it talking about. So overall, what is the idea now we have to see? So we read it first. Yeah, in the exam, maybe you don't take so much of time, but when you are practicing, you have to be thorough with your what? When you're practicing, what are you going to be thorough with? Your strategy of reading. So you should know that you, whatever question comes, you will get it right. Yeah, and then you will be practicing on your speed. Both are required, accuracy and speed. So here it says most firms consider expert individuals to be too elitist, temperamental, egocentric, and difficult to work. So what are they talking about? Now we are looking at the keywords, remember? So here, how do we get an idea? So it's talking about expert individuals and what type of people they are, right? Now, force such people to collaborate on high-stake projects, stakes project, and they just might come to fisticuffs. What do you mean by fisticuffs? What do you mean by fisticuffs? Third line. What idea do you get?
I'm like, they get tied together. Like, they're not able to move very freely.
No. They will be fighting. Fisticuffs. Fists. Bishum.
Cuffs are like handcuffs.
Yeah. So fisticuffs means they don't get along. Yeah. They fight. So why do they fight? They are elitist, temperamental, egocentric, difficult to work with, so they can't get along. Right? Next, so that means they can't cooperate, collaborate, nahi ho sakta. Even the very notion of managing such a group seems unimaginable. Yeah. Now the next sentence is, so most organizations fall into the default mode, setting up project teams. So now they are setting up project teams of people who get along nicely. So people who get along nicely, will they always be expert individuals? Not nice. Because they're already saying expert individuals don't get along. Yeah. So what do we, what is the summary of the passage now? First thing you have to look at the summary. Expert individuals don't get along, not manageable. Here are the keywords. And now if you look at the options, the result is what? Disastrous thinking?
Because they get along well.
Get along hoga.
Teamwork.
Right. So disasters would be something extreme. Yeah. Here we are talking about expert individuals and high stake projects.
I think it should be option 2.
Option
Two.
2, yeah.
Yes,
So
ma'am,
now if we
mediocrity.
look at 3 and 4, can we eliminate? They drive innovations, nahi ho sakta. Result is
And ma'am, becoming elitists, that narrative is.
Yeah, so we don't get that narrative. So the only thing that can come out is mediocrity. So what did we do? We looked at keywords, transitions, the gist of the paragraph, scope of the paragraph. So now we said innovations is not in the scope. Yeah. Not related. Then we said they would become elitist, that is not in the narrative. Yeah. It will be disastrous, is not a logical conclusion. We got our answer?
And
So-
ma'am, since even in the second last line, it is mentioned that the organizations fall into the default mode, essentially leading to the a mediocre result. So I think that could also be.
Utkarsh, your voice is not very clear, it's breaking a little. Are you in the classroom?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you repeat what you said?
What I was saying was in the second last line, there is a line which says most organizations fall into the default mode, which could be another clue that would directly take us to the mediocre option, the second.
Okay, so now this was a sample question. So now we come to the strategies. So we first looked at the concept of the paragraph, the gist, the concept and the scope, subject area and its limits. So scope gets us to the limits. What cannot be our answer? Right? So when we look at the options, we have to go into the mode of elimination. So it becomes easier. Next, we look at the keywords. So the keywords help us in reaching our conclusion. Now, if it is a complicated passage, what do? Break it down, look at the essence. And our conclusion should be related to the essence. And we already spoke about the scope. Now, something we had done in our sentence completion questions. The tone, tone of the sentences or the tone of the paragraph. What does it tell us? Whether we need something, a negative word or a negative sentence or a positive sentence. Is it talking about, is it sarcastic? Are we looking at a positive result? Are we looking at a negative result? So those will be the things that you need to analyze. And another thing you have to remember is that tone in an entire passage or a paragraph will not change abruptly. That means suddenly, say you have a sentence which you have to fill in the middle of the paragraph. The uska tone will be in accordance with the rest of the paragraph, unless there's a contrast. If it is talking about a contrast in the next part, then the tone may change, otherwise it will not change. So you identify the tone like, but however, although, though, what do these words set up? These are transitions will give you contrast. So if you have a contrast, then you see what is the contrast about. And you have to look at the logical flow of the paragraph. So in the middle of this paragraph, if you put a sentence which doesn't go with the logic of the rest of the paragraph, will it put it? Yeah, simple things, but you should remember. So you eliminate anything that is not according to the flow, and you have to maintain continuity. That is, you begin with one idea, the same idea continues. There can be a variation, there can be explanations, there can be something related to that idea, but the idea should continue through the paragraph. So now you know what to eliminate. Something that is contradictory, not in accordance with the paragraph. Something that is not mentioned in the paragraph at all. You can't relate to the paragraph. Extreme words like always, never, these are extreme words. So we have to see, does it fit in? Does it not fit in? Usually, when they give you extreme words, you have to be careful. Right? So these are the things which, if you miss out on, now there may be two options given. It mostly leads to mediocrity or always leads to mediocrity. Mostly, always will not be your answer. Right? And if you're looking at a conclusion or even the beginning or the middle, restatement of any of the other lines in the passage will never be your answer. So anything that is given, you may say that, okay, this is related, but then read carefully. Is it restating something that has already been said? Or is it saying something new? Yeah. And another thing, when you're looking at a conclusion, any inference that is based on only one of the points in the passage or one of the lines in the passage cannot be a conclusion. Right? This much clear? And when you are talking about a concluding sentence, can it be something which is not based on whatever you have read? No. So anything that is not based on what you've read already will not be your answer. So these are the type of options you get which you can eliminate at the first. Tanya, you can answer questions. Now, When you're talking about the last line of the passage, we said it can be first, second, or last, or middle or last. So last line will always be either a conclusion or a logical extension of the second last line. If you have an option which is related to whatever has been said earlier, that can be your answer. If you don't have a clear thought, right? Like we already said. Now, another thing, sometimes they will give you options which may seem like conclusions, but they are, if you fit into the paragraph as such. Another thing, like we said in the sentence completion, always plug in your answer. You put your answer into the paragraph and read the paragraph again. If it seems logically correct, go with it. If you think there is something amiss, think again. Right? So if you think that your paragraph is ending abruptly with the option you've chosen, not at all. Right? And obviously, if you are talking about logic, the reasoning should be correct. And it should be related to the main idea. Now, all these things may seem obvious, but why I have taken all the pain to put it down, इसलिए कि दिमाग में घुस गया, and you don't forget afterwards. Anything that needs to stay has to be repeated. If you repeat things, that's why I tell you to practice. Go through the PPT. How many of you go through the PPT after the class? None. You do?
Not after the class, but nice.
At least when you're doing a work practice. Once in a while. Why am I sharing the PPTs? So the Facebook not here.
Like you go through like on the day of the class, but like 2 or 3 days after.
Yeah.
In this week, you can go through this.
Now concluding transitions we had already talked about. So those will be your key hints to get to your conclusion. So as expressed can also be in your concluding sentence. As expressed above, and then you could go overall as a result. Yes, can you teach me what you are talking about or what you understood? Okay, now another thing that you have to remember in your last sentence. It should not introduce something new. If it introduces something new, it's not your conclusion. Right? Now, when you are reading a passage, it may happen that the concluding sentence may relate to something that is coming up in the next paragraph, but in your ultimate questions, that will not be the case. So you have to remember anything new, not relevant. Logical flow we already talked about, smooth transition. Now how transition words we already talked about. Main thing about transition words in the middle of a paragraph would be what? What does it give you? In the middle of a paragraph.
And like there's a contrast between
Contrast or additional information or a reason for the whatever has been said in the previous sentence. What about nouns and pronouns? Say your sentence begins with it. It was, say, it increased over the years. So that it should have reference to the previous sentence. So that's how you can connect the where, what sentence you need to change. And nouns and pronouns are very important when you are dealing with our next topic, which we'll be doing later, parajumpers. So in parajumpers, you'll be given sentences of a paragraph in a jumbled up form, and you have to arrange them. About jumble, okay? Don't worry, we'll do it. Okay, so
Examples now.
yeah, we'll do. So now just to summarize what we said all this time, what you will have to identify, you have to summarize, give the gist of the paragraph, the essence of the passage, scope, and there is a what is the scope of the passage, if your option is within the scope or not, tone and style, logical sequence, and direction, that is how the flow is going. Transition words, nouns, pronouns, articles. Just keep it down. So what do articles do? What will say first sentence of a paragraph, what will it not begin with? And it can begin with and if there is reference and. Will it begin with the? It can, but you have to see, does it refer to something before in your option? You have to see, does it refer to something which should have been stated earlier? Yeah. So whenever you get these words, you have to be a little careful. Keywords, extremes, right? What do you eliminate? Out of scope, not mentioned, contradictory to what has been said, extreme choices, restatement of one of the lines. Will not be a conclusion. Inference based on one of the lines, not your conclusion. Too broad. Whereas it includes things which are not mentioned, or too narrow, doesn't cover everything. Right? Inconsistent with the tone. Your entire passage is talking about something negative. And you have come up with positive, or the other way. Anything new? Yeah. Keeping all this in mind, we will go on. So now we know the initiating sentence, connecting and concluding. This is also just a recap. Long passage? Very long? Okay. So if it is a very long passage, what do you do? First, what is it talking about? Where is the gap?
Between
Last sentence. So you have to first read carefully, identify keywords, get to the summary. Do you have problem reading from there? Yeah, it's page 171, example 1 if you want.
Ma'am, is it E?
Before we get to the answer, first tell me what is the passage talking about?
Manufacturing of automobiles and giving them to dealers and dealers selling it to us.
No, we are talking about the relationship
Relationship.
between the dealer and the factory and dealer and the customer.
Relationship can become what, right? That's what they're talking about. So, the relationship between number one, factory and dealer. Distal and usually strains, right? Are we getting a positive vibe or negative vibe?
Negative.
Negative. Factory tries to force cars on the dealers. Now,
Forced to
what does the factory do?
it forces the buyer.
Forces the dealer to pile up cars. तो supply देते रहते हैं whether the dealer can sell or not, right? All students should understand, no? Okay, they try to force. That's a language thing. Now, next is relationship between. So first we had the relationship between the factory and the dealer. Second, relationship between the dealer and customer. Equally strained. Why? Dealers adjust prices. So here we have the factory, dealer, and the customer. So this becomes a system marked by a lack of long-term commitment on either side. Right? What is the result? Maximizes feeling of mistrust. Next, in order to maximize the bargaining positions, everyone wants to maximize bargaining positions. Everyone holds back information. No one is giving the right information. Right? So, the dealer about the product, customer about this true desire.
I think it should be A or E.
It should be A or C because A talks about the customer because the customer is the most important person from the paragraph.
So is the factory related to the customer? Here we are talking about everyone holds back information. The dealer about the product, the customer about his true desires. So everyone is in the loop.
Yes.
Yeah. So A doesn't take into account everyone. Deal making becomes rampant without concern for the customer satisfaction. Here it's only talking about only customer satisfaction. So it is
Not.
narrow. We are looking at a conclusion.
It's not like HT's okay.
Does it talk about the whole idea? No, right? Then we have, as a result, inefficiencies creep into the supply chain.
It's not really a theme of the.
It's not related. So it is out of scope. As a result, everyone treats the other as an adversary rather than an ally.
It's on the positive side, but the entire paragraph is on negative.
So is this related to what the paragraph is talking about?
Yes, kind of. Yes.
It is kind
No,
of.
ma'am, adversary is basically an opponent, ma'am. How can a consumer and a producer be opponents to each other? Definitely, they are holding back information, but how are they, against each other? I don't understand.
Adversaries? Is the passage talking about them being adversaries or allies? So this is also,
But how can a consumer be the adversary of a dealer or producer?
that's what we say, no? That it is not the passage.
A producer can be an adversary to another producer, but I do not understand the relation between the producer and the consumer.
So the producer and the factory cannot be adversaries. They have to work together. The dealer and the consumer have to work together. So that's not. They don't treat. So they treat each other as adversary is we can't conclude. As a result, fundamental innovations are becoming scarce.
That's not
Automobile
what the
industry is
paragraph
not
is talking
mentioned.
about.
Not.
Automobile industry is also not mentioned in the paragraph.
So what do we eliminate? We eliminated
B and D.
We eliminated A, we eliminated B, we eliminated C, we also eliminated D. What are we left with?
E.
So as a result, everyone loses in the long run. So we are talking about what happens in the long run as a result of what the paragraph was talking about. So what did you do? First, understand the paragraph, summarize, then look at your options. What cannot be an answer? Something that you cannot conclude, something that is not in the scope, something that is too narrow or too wide. Okay. Becomes easy now. So MMA, however you pronounce it, Ramosway had a detective agency in Africa at the foot of the Catholic. So what is the main thing that you need to take into account?
Detective agency.
A is not an answer. You can eliminate C.
Okay, we'll get to the answers. These words, assets. So we are talking about assets. Tiny white plant is best to cherish a telephone and an old typewriter. Then there were a teapot, in which Varbal was the only private detective in Barcelona and 3 mugs. So, and one for secretary, one for crime. What else does a detective agency really need? Detective agencies rely on human intuition and intelligence, both of which Ravensway had in abundance. Yeah? Now we have, but there was also the view which again would appear on no inventory. Does that logically make sense? I can agree. Huh? So they're talking about things that are not important, and then they're talking about the view. Yeah. Then no inventory would ever include those of course.
Yes, ma'am. B.
D.
Yes. Ma'am, because C is completely opposite of all. Like it's not even mentioned in the paragraph.
She had an intelligence secretary too. They've already mentioned the secretary that she was to. Now they've already, now if you see, intelligence secretary, detective agencies rely on human intuition and intelligence. It's already in a variation of what has been mentioned. Right? So they have said, if you look at that, both of which she had in abundance. And now, is the secretary important here in the conclusion?
No, ma'am. No.
Now, intelligence secretary is too specific, can't be a conclusion. She was a good detective and a good woman. Good detective. She had good intuition and both of which she had in abundance. At least she was a good detective. It's a restatement of what I've been said.
Can be.
Can it be a conclusion?
It can be.
What is the rest of the paragraph talking about?
About assets.
Assets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is inventory? Inventory means
Asset.
asset.
Yes.
Inventory means
Inventory
what?
is assets. What you have.
Inventory means what a company possesses.
All assets.
That is, inventory is what you have. Assets are what you are using for development. Right? Inventory would include everything, whether it is debt or
Assets would also include like the things that are not like goodwill, reputation,
yeah.
and inventory.
So here, now when you're talking about tiny, her assets were a tiny white van, 2 desks, 2 chairs, a telephone, typewriter. Are these inventories?
Yes. She can use it to perform.
What is a, like, if you talk in technical terms, what is an inventory?
that is used for the 6 weeks.
Tangible assets of a company.
So something which is linked to positive events,
It's in
right? So if we say white van, two desks, two chairs, telephone, old typewriter, keyboard, 3 mugs, are those inventories? Huh? They can be our assets, that is our possessions, but are these inventories assets? Now if we look at the options, no inventory would ever include those of course, right? So it's talking about these were assets, will these be included as our inventories? Intelligence. Yeah, when you are producing something or a company is doing business, it is making profit or doing business on the basis of the inventories. So investment could be an inventory. A building could be an inventory. People can also be inventories. Right? Productive. So when you are calculating productivity,
They're assets, right?
yeah,
Assets. They're
Yes, ma'am. It's called human capital.
But they are inventory now.
so now will inventory.
Yeah.
So when you say, now what can we eliminate over here?
C and D and A actually.
A and D can be eliminated. She had an intelligent secretary too. Can this be a conclusion?
No.
So on the basis of the paragraph, B is the only thing that is remaining. Whether you want to agree or not, that is your answer. Yeah. So it should make logical sense. Does it make logical sense?
Yes.
The paragraph is talking about the minimal assets that she owns, right? So B would be appropriate.
So these are the assets. Will they be regarded as inventories or not? That's a question.
Those are assets. Will they be
The assets-
inventory?
The assets which she talks about, are those inventories?
No, they're not.
So no inventory will ever include those. Right? Yes, what other options?
That is what
Yeah, in the book there is one more option. What she left in possession was more than made up for by natural foods and medicine. So would that be a conclusion? No. In your book, there's an option E also, which is ICD. So even that wouldn't really be a conclusion. Okay, yes, boys, I think you're talking too much. Okay, next question. Now let's see, get your answer for this. Okay, the interpreter of melodies the name of books.
Not be only.
Ma'am, is it C?
Is it C? Let's see whether it is C or not.
I also thought it is C, but it mentions fiction and she writes about culture and conflicts of.
But these are stories, they are all fiction. They are all fiction.
Should be C.
Hmm? What other answer do we have?
Yes, batch of cultures.
So we are looking at a sentence that will connect ideas, right? So what is the first sentence talking about? Her novel, The Educator Melodies, established her as one of the most brilliant of her generation, right? And the sentence after says that she engages in themes and then it goes on to what she deals with in her novels, right? So now, hello? Okay, option number A, can you eliminate?
Yes.
What you want to keep? Yeah, unusual quality as a writer has not been acknowledged.
We can eliminate A, yes.
Because she is most brilliant of her generation, we can't say that not been acknowledged. So A is eliminated. Her language, style, and themes are difficult to understand. Do we get that anywhere in the passage? Can we say that? No. If she is a successful writer, obviously people are reading her books. No? Okay, her stories are one of the few debut works to win the Pulitzer Prize for fiction. Hmm? Can it be in the middle?
Yes, because like,
Can it?
um,
Does it connect to the first
it is
sentence?
because it is of course her being a brilliant writer of the generation. So then that means that she may have won a prize or an award, such as the Pulitzer Prize.
And what about D?
It doesn't really connect to the story because
Depicts Americans and the American way of life.
narrow, yes. It's narrow to the
How do you connect it to the what has been given in the passage?
But it be like immediate experience, clash of cultures and conflicts.
So it's talking about immigration,
So-
immigrant experiences. So it is not talking about Americans. It's talking about immigrants.
He considered.
Yeah. So people from other countries who have come into America, that could be, but not Americans as such. So we can eliminate what are we left with? If you're not sure whether, say you think that this option could be an answer, but you're not sure, what do you do? Eliminate. After you eliminate everything else, give an option. Right? Okay, all those online, I hope you can hear me clearly. If I'm sitting down, please don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this one.
Then we get the 10 minutes or 5 minutes.
Already?
Okay.
What's the time?
We have 1 hour and this 1:35.
Okay, we'll finish this. Yeah. It's already on the board.
Ma'am, is it B?
Is it B? Okay, let's see whether it.
Should be yes. Should be
Yes, girls,
it is
what's your answer? C? Why can't it be A? I'm confused between A and B. Okay. Now, what are the first sentence? First two sentences are what are talking about that you should travel alone.
yes.
That you should explore, you should travel. What is the rest of the paragraph talking about?
Planning your time.
Planning and
Planning your
strategizing.
travel and what you should be careful about,
Yes. Yes.
right? So now what will connect these two together? Now, if you look at A, what does A say? However, do not accept fraudulent bookings in hotels. Is it now? If a sentence begins with however, it should set up a contrast with what has been said earlier. Is it a contrast with what is said earlier? Not really. Right? And if you look at B, what is B doing? It is giving you a warning. And then it is giving you, the rest of the paragraph is giving you the sentence. So you need to strategize to stay safe. And then they're talking about how to settle. So B is the only correct. If you look at C and D, it's not talking about traveling alone. Right? It's saying that you go with a group. Or always ask for directions from friendly looking strangers. So D can come in somewhere at the end, but not in the middle of where we are looking. Okay? I'll give you a 5 minutes break and then we'll do the exercise. Okay, you people, I think, some of you wanted to discuss the class test, right? At some point. So maybe after Diwali, you've taken a couple of more class tests. Then we can you can try the class test anyway. So actually the first few are basically grammar, vocabulary. And for you, the strategy that we had begun with was developing some vocabulary. How good are you at English appliance? I'm not talking about school. You read? What? You get a newspaper? You read? And now on even open to the editorial page. Open to the editorial page every day. Read at least 2 characters. Or whatever you, 5 minutes of reading every day, please. Write down 5 words, how they are used. Write down 5 synonyms of those words, look up. Write down 5 synonyms and 2 or 3 antonyms, how they use. So minimum of 5 words every day will, even if you don't do every day, at least 3 or 4 days you can do. So 5 words will be considered into how many words if you write 5 synonyms for each word and 3 antonyms. 8 words more. Yeah. So you have to learn to build up your vocabulary on the computer. So we see it's all based on understanding what happens. Speak of the info also. You can do that. And as we go on, then we do, you finish the course and you have your exams, then we do a revision. So that will be an intense revision. That is beginning to end, every single lecture. You can, whatever classes you have missed out on, keep doing them. You can ask them to schedule in for the classes. Do you have any comments or comments? Okay, everybody, want to come back to work? Hello? Yeah?
Yes.
I'm going to get back to solving questions. Interesting or boring? Not so interesting. Okay.
What exactly what we were doing before? What we were doing, the prepositions and all, it's better than that.
It is more interesting than grammar. But you know, we need to use our brains a little bit. Okay. So that's why I told you in the beginning, remember? We are going from easy to difficult. As we move on, difficulty level is increased. Okay, so you can open up to hello girls. Yes, boys at the end. Feeling sleepy? Okay, so this is you can open up to practice exercise 1, page 174. Now all these questions will begin with directions. Yeah. So we can say each of the following questions, a short passage is given, etc., etc. Yeah. So that is something you don't need to waste your time with it, because you know what you need to do. Right? Question number 1. Now this is a big passage. The middle sentence missing. So we have to look at the links. What are the ideas that we need to link together? So you can solve it from your book if you want to, or from the country. Read. Sure about it? Answer. B. So who thinks it's B? Raise your hands. B. No? So we have B. And anyone with A? Anyone going with A? Okay, now everyone think on your own. Exam may no one is going to help you. Right? First think on your own, then discuss. Okay, yes, the rest of you, what is your answer? Yeah? B. Okay. Utkarsh, what's your answer?
Ma'am, B or D, ma'am. I'm not sure. I take B.
Ryan?
Even I think B.
Sure. Have you done it? What's your answer? Can't hear you. Arinvi, what's your answer?
I'm B.
So we have mostly B and D. Okay, Shyam, you said B. Okay, let's see. Now, what is the first sentence talking about? that the Greeks built pyramids, and according to the writer, he says took tens of thousands of men and 20 years to make. Right? What is the rest of the paragraph talking about?
They had not learned to make ramps and all, and they cut the.
So how they made the pyramids, that is what it is described. Right? All the different difficulties they had, how many people died, all that. Now, what are we looking for? We are looking for a sentence which comes after the first. Right? Now, A is eliminated. Okay.
Eliminated.
Yeah, sure enough, eliminated because it talks about gods and goddesses, which is out of scope. Now, B says, however, even those figures are not accurate. Those figures, we are looking for keywords and clues. Yeah, those figures refers to
No.
figures. Those figures are not accurate. The construction of the pyramids was an amazing achievement. So, what is not accurate?
Figures.
What figures?
The 10,000 men.
Tens of thousands of men and 20 years to.
Okay. Those figures.
Right? Those figures mean something which refers to the previous end. Okay, let's look at C. Each of the gods and of the ancient believed that their own role had their own roles to play. We are not talking about gods again anyway. Let's look at D. The dry air and drifting desert have preserved many records of ancient Egypt, including pyramids, until modern times. So, is this related to the construction? Does it connect the ideas in the first sentence and after? Does it? Right? So, we can eliminate the. So, what is your only answer left? B. So, whenever you come across, like we said, nouns and pronouns. Here we have a pronoun those. The moment you get a pronoun, what do you have to see? What does it refer to? Those figures refers to what has been mentioned in the earlier sentence. This one is a shorter passage. Again related to history. Okay. Yes.
A. A.
Okay. So the answer we are coming. Anyone with a different answer? You haven't done it yet?
Yeah. It relates to the previous verse.
So what is the first sentence talking about?
Collapse.
Collapse. When the Monroe's armistice was signed. So something was signed. Monroe's armistice was a treaty. Something is signed. Treaty is signed. Right? After Ottoman Empire had lost the Great War, and then it gives 4 examples. The states of this and this would be open. So the terms and conditions in the treaty. So we can go with as severe terms. So England was no longer a huge empire. England doesn't count. No one is happy with the new situation. Could be, but it doesn't connect to the next sentence. Right? Istanbul was a capital. No one.
A.
So now we come to dinosaurs.
A.
Sure.
Yes, 110.
Yes, ma'am. A.
You don't need to explain the very
So we are talking about why the dinosaurs died. Yeah. Now it says the most accepted one means we are talking about the food. Yes, everyone at the back? Answer Melia? Remember, you have to take note of transitions when you are linking ideas.
B.
B. So here you have to read through the entire passage to get your clues. So what is the passage talking about? What is the summary?
GDP and the role of the government and the
So spending budget is lower. So compared to last year, private investment absent. Lowering GDP numbers should serve as a reality check. So that means GDP numbers have gone down, right? Now, next part says, while the government has vigorously underlined its reform achievements, means it has talked about reforms that is going to do of the last 3 years, such as the goods and service tax, etc. A mission mode reforms reboot is urgently needed, and that can only begin if the problem is suitably acknowledged, right? So what can correct? While lower inflation growth rate may soften RBI's outlook, little monetary policy alone, there is little that monetary policy alone can do to revive investments. So here we are talking about RBI's role and the monetary policy's role. And here we are talking about what the government is doing. Does it connect?
Last time.
No, but RBI
RBI is related, but the fiscal policy is related to the government. Monetary policy is related to that. Here we are talking about taxes. Taxes comes in monetary policy or fiscal policy?
Fiscal policy.
Fiscal policy. Now returning to 8% growth rate now is going to be a big challenge. Yeah. Now, first of all, it says returning to 8%. So earlier it was 8%, it has gone down. The government has to do something to get back to 8%. It can be.
And ma'am, the whole thing is being compared. As you highlighted the word compared.
Compared to last year.
Vigorously underlined its reforms achievement.
So, and if we look at B, so we should be sure that we can eliminate CMD. Why would you eliminate C? This 7.1% estimate is held up
Because
is
It's not
because growth of
related
the
to
previous quarter was revised. Is it related?
it's
Is it in
not
the scope?
related. It's
Not in the scope. Not really. Private consumption grew at the slowest pace in 5 quarters.
Related.
Ma'am, it is not related to before or after the sentence.
We're talking about government spending. We are not concerned about private consumption. So B is the only answer. And does B make sense? Plug it back in. Read this paragraph. Yes, can you please stop talking? It's very disturbing. We'll go on. Simple one. No.
Sure.
What are they talking about?
Size of your hand is over here, about 20%.
That is the size. So what is the size?
Yeah, squirrel size, so how are they?
So, they are about 25 centimeters long. So they can also fly is not what they're looking at. It's an interesting method of communication. Is it talking about anything? They are, yes. It can readily run along branches.
Not in the scope.
Huh?
Not very.
Mostly they live in the forest, they can run along branches. Makes sense.
Next line is
But
on
it
the
is not
side.
connecting to the next.
Yes.
So please your answer. Carefully. A or B. Yes.
That too.
Is it D?
B. B or B.
Fourth option, B.
Option. A or B or D.
D cannot be because they add the plateau made up story using elements that they may have drawn from real events. And in that question, it's mentioned that Atlantis never existed. So they are contrasting statements. And there's no contrast in the entire paragraph.
Okay, let's see. Now, okay, somebody who thinks it's A? Somebody said it. Okay, can you explain your answer?
Because I thought that I think A or B, not completely
Okay, first thing, what are the first two sentences talking about?
A. Seconds.
It says Atlantis is an island existing on location, never being confirmed. Right? First reference are from classic Greek philosopher Plato, who said it was engulfed by ocean before his own time. So had he seen it?
A, I think, right?
Okay. He says that it had been engulfed. They also added that Plato made up the story using elements that may have been drawn from real events. May have been. We don't know.
Yes.
It is a possibility.
Yes.
Right? So now one clue is that they should appear in the previous sentence. Now, Plato described Atlantis. Is it they? We don't even have to read the rest of the sentence.
Second one also.
So A can be eliminated.
Second one also.
Plato's accounts are his work, in his works, this and this, and these philosophical dialogues are the earliest most references to Atlantis. So references would be there, but they also added that. So
it's some person.
accounts added.
I don't think these.
Now, if we see, Plato's accounts of the Atlantis are in his works, and these philosophical dialogues earliest known references to Atlantis. They also added that Plato made up stories. So Plato's accounts added that Plato made up stories.
No, not possible.
So that Plato's accounts could not have made up stories. Okay, the legend of Atlantis is frequently featured in books. So is this giving us any link?
No. No.
What are we left with?
B.
We have to eliminate probably. ये कैसे आंसर हुआ था? I told you whenever you have a pronoun, make sure it has an antecedent. That is subject related to it. What is it referring to should be clear. Right? Now, here, while there are many hypotheses about Atlantis, the vast majority of scientists conclude that Atlantis never existed. And we added that. So the scientists added that. Makes sense. Right? Next question. There's question number 7.
Is this also D, the fourth option?
It should be D.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Absolutely sure. You have to be absolutely sure.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, no.
Okay. Yes, Mahir, Utkarsh, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So what's the reason for choosing D?
Because the second.
Ma'am, because the next sentence is however, which contradicts the first sentence.
In that undersea earthquake. And none of the options.
It's also talking about the cause, right? That is described in the fourth option.
So
So
basically,
however, most common cause is something. So we are looking at causes. So we have to have something which tells us why the earthquake happens. Yeah. So it should be D. Now, a tsunami can travel 100 miles, that is a C1, over the open sea and cause extensive damage and then encounters land. Does anybody use it for the earthquake?
it's. Yeah.
So yes, D is the answer. Okay, question number 8. Look for key phrases or words in the options. So what are the key things you get from the passage? So residents of five states struggling to cope with the threats of rainfall.
We can be eliminated.
We can do it. Answer.
It's either A or C.
C.
Yes, definitely yes. I don't think it's A.
Equals
Yes, everyone in the back, answer Anna. Equals A, B, A. Sure about it? Read carefully. It can be. I didn't say A is not. You have to see whether A is or not. Okay, so what is the passage telling us? First thing, have you understood the passage? So these five states are starting with the. So there's the effects of intense rainfall. Many of those. Okay, what does effects mean? Anything comes to mind? Effects means as a word.
the cause of something.
Cause of something. And what is affects?
The things which follow the cause. Like what happens after the cause.
There's a difference in usage. Effect with an E is what? Noun. Effect with an A is verb. What? Very important word. Okay, let's continue. Many of those lucky to have been rescued over to the National Disaster Response Corps, but such response systems naturally have limited efficacy in predominantly rural states such as Bihar. Yeah. Now, capacity building to handle catastrophic weather events is poor. Capacity building is poor. Yeah. Serious attention is not given to setting up relief camps. So here we are talking about a problem, and here we are talking about why there's a problem. Right? Creating crisis-proof health infrastructure and stockpiling by dry rations and medicines. So what can connect these two things? Now, if you look at A, in Bihar's case, shifting patterns and reaches of the Kosi have added to complexity of the problem. Is it linking the two things? It is only giving another reason why there is flood. Will it be an answer? It's not really. Right? We are talking about, here we are talking about, and it is not in the scope also. Here we are talking about a rescue, but such responses, so here we have a contrast also. But such response systems have limited efficacy in the rural areas. And then goes on to why it has limited efficacy. So something should link these two. B says an integrated approach to managing floods requires a sound understanding of the pattern that rivers such as Ganga and its tributaries displayed in the monsoons. Does it link? It's again related to the cause that the rivers are causing flood. But we are not dealing with the actual problem that the people are having. What stands out in the annual cycle of floods is the general tardy pace of preparation for rescue and relief. That is something that may link people together. Yeah. So first we are saying that limited efficacy, and then we are saying that relief camps are not set up. Crisis-proof health structure is not there. And D says India's vulnerability to severe flooding in the monsoon is spectacularly demonstrated year after year. Does it link the two? So only C links to two. Yeah, got your reasoning right? So anything that is complicated, what do? Remove any of the content that is not related. Eliminate options that are not related. So once you get to the main parts of the two of the ideas that you have to connect, you know what can connect the ideas. Yeah. So here it is basically connecting the ideas. Question number 9. Yes, what's your final answer?
C. That's one. Six.
C. Yes, anybody with the answer? A.
A.
So the first thing that comes is tax to GDP ratio is lower than
How
25%.
much GDP is consisted of the tax?
Yeah, tax to GDP ratio की GDP में.
कितना
This is
tax?
coming from taxes. And then it goes on to say that 85% doesn't pay tax outside the tax time. And out of the individuals who earn more than 1 crore, 30% tax bracket is unrealistically low. So the main cause is the low taxes,
So 1 crore plus.
right?
Plus, yeah.
So we are not getting enough from the taxes. So now there are two things that are come in the first sentence. Tax to GDP ratio is low. Public spending to GDP ratio is also low. Right? So something that has to link the two together with the rest of it. So the country cannot scale up necessary infrastructure and social spending without widening its tax base. Rest of it is talking about tax base.
Yes.
And public spending to GDP ratio low. We have to increase the public spending.
Scale.
Public spending is for what? Infrastructure and social spending. Right? Now we look at the other options. The government had promised to adopt non-intrusive methods to employ information technology to widen tax base. This is giving you, now here what are we looking at? We're looking at a reason why this happens, and this is about why the government cannot spend, and the rest of it is talking about low tax. So the two connected together. Does B connect the two together? Yes or no? If somebody said C as a target, rough or otherwise, it is an ambitious goal for a country where the direct tax base has grown at a snail's pace. What is the ambitious goal? It is an ambitious goal. Is the previous sentence talking about any goal? Yes or no? No, no. So C cannot be an answer. It is not clear why there is such a panic about the number. Is it in the scope? Not really. Are people getting bored? Let's speed up. Yes?
Yes. The
Wait, give me your answer.
B.
That was really fast. Okay. Hello. Answer. Anybody else with the answer? Utkarsh? Ryan?
1 minute.
It would be
this, anybody? Yeah. C. B. Some people say C, some say
B, ma'am.
Hmm? Yes, Mahir?
B.
B. Okay. Utkarsh?
B.
B. Okay, let's see. So we have between B and C. क्या होना चाहिए? What is the passage talking about? Somebody explain. Huh? No one wants to explain. Mhm. So it's talking about why you should shift to the construction sector, right? That's the first sentence is talking about you should shift. Last sentence is talking about even with lower share in GDP, it employs more workers than manufacturing, right? So what should connect in something related to the why? So now A you have eliminated in addition to labor force used in construction is largely unskilled. That is, we are not concerned with whether they're skilled or unskilled. Higher allocation and steps to boost this sector are needed as it is likeliest to absorb labor after agriculture. Yeah, does this connect to the next part? Even with a lower share in GDP, it employs more workers. It employs more workers. Here we are talking about likeliest to absorb labor after agriculture. Agriculture is supposed to be employing the largest amount of labor. After agriculture, this employs, that is the construction employs labor. Okay, if you look at C, this is a characteristic of rural labor force. What is a characteristic of rural labor force? What does this refer to? Huh? What is this refer to? Incremental spending should focus this, that refers, that is the key characteristic of rural labor force. Does it make sense? Anytime you get a pronoun, make sure it is clear what it is referring to. So this means spending should shift to the construction sector. Is it a characteristic of rural labor force? If you look at these measures, are we talking about measures make good economic and political sense? So what is left? Only B. Yes, boys?
B.
Reasoning, Sarita?
Reasoning.
What did you get as reasoning?
Agriculture refers like the what has a lower share in GDP, but employs more workers than manufacture.
So
Refers
we
to
are,
agriculture.
our main key is the number of people employed.
And it's also true like in the situation.
Okay, number 11. Sign plan,
4 minutes. 4 minutes, 76.
4 minutes. We can do that. Ideally, we should be doing one question only.
But we have done the 10 questions.
3 minutes.
See, okay, let's see if you can do this.
Either B or C.
B or C.
We can songs relevant here. Songs regarded. Yeah. कि 10 साल पहले coral covered was a reef. Yeah. Coral covered seabed was a dry land. तो ये बात है जैसे आज
Look at the key information and the clues. Let us see a fact
Ma'am, D.
lamented in the songs. What fact was lamented in the songs? Cheers and dances of indigenous people living along the coast speak of homelands.
Ma'am, A can also be there.
Yes.
A. It fell. Sea level fell or not. It drowned.
Dry land and it
Oh yeah. It's B.
Okay, give me one answer.
B for more. B.
B. Okay, who's going to explain?
Yes.
Yes.
The last sentence, it speaks about fountain homeland is being drowned. And then B it says the value is equal to that.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to
So, a fact, what fact?
And ma'am also.
A mere 1,000 years ago, coral covered seabed was dry land and then it was drowned. Right? Here also we are talking about what conservationists worry that it will destroy the coral reef, the barrier reef, right, along the coast, and it will be drowned. So B will be your answer. Now, somebody said C. Okay, Alini, now are you clear with your answer?
Yes, ma'am.
We can do one more question.
I'm D.
Okay, I will let other people read and then you can come up with your answer.
Yes, ma'am. You don't let them accuse us.
Okay, you can be faster than her. Time over, answer to three. This will be easy.
Efforts. It's a part. B होना चाहिए.
Huh?
And we can eliminate C,
You can eliminate
B, and
C and
D.
C.
is eliminated. C is eliminated.
C can be the answer.
Yes, we can eliminate.
Have you read the part after the blank?
Yes. I think C is the answer. C is the answer. C is.
What's the answer? If you read carefully, you will get the answer. You have to read carefully. Read the part after the blank. Get your clue.
C is eliminated. C is
What is it talking about?
It's C because it talks about the motor. and how it accelerates the rocket.
See, like some or some of the rest.
Yes, girls?
बाकी सारा वो करता है
Unanimous
और ये
answers?
this मिला रहेगा.
B.
Now I'm
And all the boys say C.
C.
Yes, right.
Okay, let's see who is right. Okay, Haniji has said C, has said D, Mahir. Answer?
I'm not sure, but C.
C. Okay. Utkarsh?
From D.
B. Okay, majority of boys go with C, right? Okay, did we understand the passage?
Yes.
Yes? What is the passage talk about?
Let's say some
It takes a lot of room to
rocket
satellite,
so
to launch a satellite into space. Yeah? Now, what does the rest of it talk about? The rocket's motors
functioning
account for
parts.
some of the rest. Some of the rest of what?
And some of the rest of 95%.
Some of the, and now it says, but the bulk consists of the propellants and bubbles. They have to handle the propellants. So the bulk consists of. So if you look at C, the fuel and oxygen tank react to produce the thrust required to reach orbit. The rocket motors account for some of the rest of what? The thrust.
Yes.
And the bulk consists of propellants. Does it logically make sense? What are we talking about? The rocket's motors. We are talking about the motors. Huh? Fuel and oxidants are outside the motors. Where's the fuel? Fuel and oxidants are creating the thrust. The fuel is where?
The
It's not in the motor.
It's not. It's in the propellant
Where is it burning?
in the motor.
The motor. So, connect things together. Have you connected properly?
I feel. Yes.
Yeah. And then bulk of it consists of the propellants and gubbins needed to handle these tanks. Now, if you look at the portion in brackets, you haven't read that. What is written in brackets is also important. Tanks, pumps, walls, piping, bodywork. Are these creating thrust? Are these creating thrust? This is the weight. Are these creating thrust? Pumps, tanks, walls, piping, bodywork. Are these creating the rest of the thrust required?
It should be C because it's talking about the thrust, right?
That's why I said, are these creating thrust? You haven't read carefully. If you don't read the entire thing carefully, you will go wrong. So D is not, C is not the answer, D is the answer. So typically the payload represents only 5% of the mass and the rocket motors account for some of the rest. Bulk of it consists of that and that. Got it?
What's on
D. So what are we looking at? We are not looking at the thrust required. We are looking for the payload. Payload means what it is carrying.
carrying it to space?
That is the weight that it is carrying. So if you don't read, what is your lesson from this question? Read every part of the passage carefully.
Yes.
Okay? So now we've done till 12. How many questions? If there are 3 questions remaining, you can do that for homework. 3 क्वेश्चन तो कर सकते हैं आज के रात. So question 13, 14, 15 not for homework. And we'll continue with practice exercise 2 in our next session. Okay? So now you will be able to handle these questions. Yes, boys?
Yes, ma'am.
Will be able to handle? Everyone online? What do you think of these
Yes,
questions?
ma'am.
Doable?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe? Maybe is not an option.
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Yes is the only option for you. So you have to practice to make it a proper yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Everybody have a good day.
Thank you, ma'am.
बात एक ही बंद कर देना. हाँ, वो है, आप कुछ.
Right.